Hi, everyone. Welcome. And today I am so excited because I'm having a conscious conversation with a dear brother of mine, David Pino. Now, there are many beautiful gems and jewels that we touch on in this conversation. And this conversation is encompassing. Um, Hi, everyone, and welcome. And today I am so excited because I'm having a conscious conversation with David Pino, a dear brother of mine. And in this conversation, we touch on many profound and catalyzing topics on my journey and obviously on his journey as well. And so I hope that you guys get a lot from this video. And before we get to the video, I just would like to share a little bit about David. David is a proud member of the Mohawk Nation in Ontario, Canada. He has walked a path that has led him through many teachings, businesses, and life lessons. On the journey, he has gathered many tools and practices. He was guided on a vision quest in Costa Rica in 2020 to pass on this wisdom and guide the initiation of a global tribe of men. He has committed his life to pass on his life's teachings and those of his mentors and ancestors. He founded and co-guides a private men's community, Mastering Masculinity, guiding men to find their purpose, rise into their leadership, and create a life of freedom. He and his team offer the wisdom through expansive warriors programs and retreats, guiding inside of rites of passages, archetypal frameworks, communications, masculine embodiment, leadership, self-love, breath work, somatic, and relationship practices. His stand is to be a guide in empowering men and youth to be the most powerful versions of themselves and creating the life they desire. David currently lives between Toronto, Canada, and Costa Rica. As I said, this conversation had so many gems and jewels to take away. So without further ado, here is the video.
Stay overnight and then head to her in Alberta, Canada.
Ah,
And we'll hang out there for a week and then road trip across the whole country. Hang out with family for a little bit and then back down here.
I love
Yeah,
that.
man.
How long has it been since you guys have seen each other?
2 months.
Oh, okay. Good little
Long
break there.
long enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been interesting. Definitely a roller coaster. There's like such intensity of like our connection and like confirmation of our union and like the
Hmm.
newness of that. Like we've known each other for quite some time, but like the newness of like that confirmation and the beauty that was birthed in that. And then all of a sudden, see you later. I'm off to Asia. It's like, it's like our souls were like lit up and pumped. And then it's like, see ya. There's more work to do, more
Uh,
foundational stuff to take on. I mean, it was like beautiful because like over the course of the 2 months, it's like a ton
mhm.
of fears, triggers, like everything in
Mm,
the distance, like all that stuff gets to come up, right? If
yeah.
we create the spaciousness for it. So
Yeah.
there's like the physical space, and then us going through like our own inner work and inner journeys. Like she went through her yoga training and like deepening her practice with that, and into
Mhm.
like spiritual practices and ceremonial practices, and just like her own sovereign like inner journey, but brought up everything to reflect back inside of our relationship as well. And same thing, I've been going deep into like another men's program and bringing everything up that's like coming up inside of that, and really looking at all the challenges over my past couple of years and like the shame and guilt that still like was hanging on like at a deep level. So there's so much that's been able to come through, and it's like it's perfect that that space was there, because if we're like just in the thralls of like the new relation and the physical's there, everything's there, it's like
Mhm.
it can get lost, like the
Mhm.
authenticity and what's meant to come up and be expressed and held is kind of gets lost and comes up later. Right, so
Yeah.
it was perfect to have it all. It's like the word foundation comes up. It's like
Mm,
the proper foundation has been set for the container,
mhm.
which is great.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that you shared that because I almost feel like the collective is going through that right now. Like so much is coming up to be looked at. And I think that was actually it's a perfect little segue to something that was one of the questions that was asked, which was um, how important it is to be willing to take a look at things coming up. Because for me, at least in when I was sharing like my journey of being steeped in, I'll just say, using my terminology, predominantly false masculine energies of like not honoring the emotions and like um, you know just push through it, kind
Mhm.
of energy. And then well, interesting that I'm being guided to share this. So I was sharing that my story of it, but then um as soon as I had my awakening, I didn't know anything about the divine masculine, but I knew the false or the divine feminine was really suppressed collectively for quite some time. And so um, I just came out to work with the divine feminine, and I did it everyone has their own path of going about it, but particularly for me, I was, you know, I had found out about like divine feminine ascended masters and learning like um, that's so funny. Green Tara and wow, I can think of her chant, but not Kuan Yin, two women that came through to my forefront. And so I was practicing with their chants. And as I was nurturing the divine feminine within, it allowed me to have hold space to actually honor the emotions and to do the inner work. And so um, I guess the question that was posed to me, and I would love to know your perspective, is like, um, how important is it to take a look at things um, coming up, and also, do you have like, what are some keys to when things are coming up of how to best navigate that?
Yeah, love that. That's such a powerful thing because it's like as you said, like that masculine energy just wants to keep pushing things forward, and it's almost like how I see it. It's like it's wanting to fix things constantly. It's like the masculine energy is this like doer, computer
Mhm.
fix, like not don't slow down. We have to keep things in motion. So it's like that's the masculine energy outward, just keep things moving. As long as we keep things moving, then we're going to get some sort of result. But over time, if it's like we haven't actually looked to see if is this an effective piece of movement, is this
Mhm.
effective use of my energy, is this an effective use of intention, like what am I actually moving forward? So, and that's
Mhm.
where we sort of see the ineffective or quote unquote toxic ways of showing up because we haven't actually looked at, well, where's my feminine energy at? Where have I actually sat with wounds or triggers or traumas or anything that's actually impacted me at a deep level that the doing fixing has taken over. Okay, don't sit with that, don't feel that. I want to
Mhm.
feel safe, so I'll just keep busy and keep doing and see what happens, and hopefully this all fixes itself in the end, versus like slowing down and really being with what's there. And even if we look back at with a lot of ancestral practices, I'm quarter Mohawk. I think I shared with you in our
Mhm.
last conversation. So if we look at the practice of vision quest,
Mhm.
so going out and youth from a tribe being like, okay, it's time to make that leap from boyhood to manhood. It's
Mhm.
that go sit and just be within. So it's like that
Mhm.
feminine energy. It's like the divine feminine energy must be sat with and honored and revered, and a very uncomfortable situation to like actually to sit and go within to actually earn the ability to show up as that divine masculine. It's like we got to go through that surrender, that feminine
Mhm.
surrender to like actually see who we truly are before we can decide who we want to be in the masculine from that divine mature sense. So it's like all this balance of like just slow down, get quiet.
Mhm.
If our life's in chaos, it's like adding more action and more masculine doing is just going to make it even crazier. So it's like how can we just like sit, not fix anything, and just get
Mhm.
quiet? So we definitely invite in my life, and invite any of the men in our community, like, just take that time, do what you have to do to honor that. If you have a partner and a family or whatever it is, I get it. It can be challenging if there's kids and work and all these things, but really look at, even if it's once a quarter, once every 6 months, whatever that is, like, honor some time to go within, where it's like, yeah, okay, family, okay, whatever. Like, dad, husband has to go into this container for self to show up more powerfully and more effectively and more loving and compassionate and patient with you. So it's time for me to go in and see what's there, what may be operating the show in the background that I'm not aware of, that's having me show up in a chaotic and less present manner, I guess, is what's the most common thing that we see. It's like honoring that time to slow down. It's like the slow down to speed up, slow down to be more effective, more productive. Sometimes that's what we need, and often it gets skipped over.
I I love that. Like I think stillness is such a profound tool. Going within can be experienced in many ways, but yeah, definitely I resonate a lot with that stillness aspect to it. And it's like when you take a look at society and how everything is really, it's tailored to like looking outside of you, constantly being on the phones, constantly being on social media, constantly working, constantly being in school, or
Mm-hmm.
it's just set up to like always be doing things. And there's almost, at least on my journey, there's this program of like, if you're not doing, then you're like a failure, or you're worthless, or what, all the programs that can come in for that. And so it's interesting to actually think that something so simple as just taking even 5 minutes to be
Mm-hmm.
still, to go within, yet it's so profound and so needed, because it's like having the computer on all the time, and then you finally have to turn it off, otherwise it can overheat, it can lead to so many
Mm-hmm.
things. So I love that you bring that in. um, and you mentioned a powerful word, which was surrender. And I think there's so many things that I've used on my journey, but surrender and trusting
Mm-hmm.
are two things that I would be curious to know, how has that played a role in your journey of going within and honing things, harmonizing things.
Yeah. I think it really starts, and what's coming through me is like the story of like really surrendering to and trusting in that silence. Like in 2020, I came down to Costa Rica. I was living in Toronto prior to that,
Mm-hmm.
just for a full journey of surrender. I had like 3 months of surrender. So like no phone, like very minimal phone. Like I stayed at a house with a friend, and there was no internet, like no cell phone connection, no anything. So we really had to try to go find it, and like tap back into communication and tap back into the noise and the distraction. So it's like really setting that intention to trust and surrender, that the message that was meant to come through in that time, because I really had set the intention. I wasn't happy playing in the avatar of financial guy, mortgage guy, investment guy in the city anymore. I was like, okay, it's not who I am. And at my authentic core, it was coming up to my 40th birthday. So it's like all of my being is like, all right, it's like season over, time out, like time to switch gears and reinvent who you are. It's like there's no spark, there's no excitement, fulfillment, just going through the motions, and that was it. And which caused a breakup of a relationship. It was just not aligned anywhere, that just had me show up in my vices. And like I was even unfaithful in that relationship. And I still love my partner at the time to death. Like we're still really good friends. We went through this whole explosion of like bringing up wounds and everything in this inauthentic avatar that I was portraying. So that's when I was like, okay, it's time to like actually go within and see who I am at a core, and show up as the authentic version of myself. And that took a lot of trust, a lot of letting go of years of building that persona, building that avatar up, and courage to really like let that go and be like, no, this is me, like fully expose me as I'm going to show up as myself and as now a guide. I don't even know what that looks like. It's like I got this download of like I'm meant to be a guide for men. Like use the tools that you've taken on, the trainings, the certification, the communications, like all of these things, and actually bring those forward and drop the masks. So it was like this. So that was the deep surrender. It was like I could drop the mask fully and just be,
Mm,
this is you. And there's a lot of trust that had to happen in that, because I didn't trust myself to start. So I was like seeking validation and trust around me. It's like, is this safe? Am I, is my authentic self enough? That was the biggest thing. It's
mm,
like comparison, imposter syndrome. I don't have the social proof yet, even though I did. It's like there's so many people that I had supported on journeys prior to that, and either men's work or even my clients and my fitness company or my financial company. I would still just dive into their life, and like support them with their relationship or support them with their kids or whatever it is, like their mental health, their mindset, and all these things, their bodies. It's like this holistic caring and holding space of like my clients, even if that wasn't my front facing offer to them, right? So um it was really trusting that I could surrender to that and surrender to that full journey of going within and not having to do anything, and getting the message of this is your next path, then
mm.
trusting and surrendering, well, I don't know how to do that, trusting and surrendering to seeking support. So I had the guidance and the message. So trusting and surrendering, I have people in my community and network that can support me with this, and reaching out and finding people that I could trust to support and guide me to through that next journey of the venture. It's like that hero's journey. Once we get the call and we like, okay, this is like the path, it's like there's mentors that get to show up for us and support us along that path. But it's like making that decision, trusting that decision of like, okay, this is who I am, and that surrender to actually feel it and know it in your whole being that, okay, this is who I am, and trusting to take the steps forward.
I just have such an inner smile and an outer smile because, like, yeah, this has totally been my path, and yeah, it truly takes courage to step into your authentic self, to really shed all of that egoic layers that we built up, and to trust what we're being called to do, and surrender to and letting go of expectations. So I'm just like, you're taking me down memory lane, and it's still, I feel like in some cases it still applies to me today.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I feel like it's honestly, I look at creation infinitely expanding, and I also view, so far anyways, I haven't gotten to a point of that where I'm there's always spaces for me to grow, always spaces for me to look at. um and as you're sharing that, what you kind of, you're briefly touching on your journey. I actually felt like it was really such a profound um, experience, because like I mentioned in the beginning, and you've alluded to some of them. I feel like you start out in areas where it's usually dominated with that false masculinity type of energy, and then here you are today doing such beautiful work for men, humanity. So to, whatever you're feeling called to share right now, could you share again your journey from where you were and to where you are now?
Sure. Yeah, if I go back, yeah, where do we want to start?
So
Yeah, so much. Like I would say like the shift was like really big, profound shift, and big sort of awakening. I was living out of Western Canada, so I was working in hospitality out there for quite a while, so almost a decade. So I was in Vancouver, Canada, then I was in Alberta, Canada, like snowboarding, working in hospitality, and prior to that, I was an entrepreneur. So I was like entrepreneur, um, before actually having an advertising business, I was in a little more underground entrepreneurial escapades with like party promoting and supplying the supplies for the party, if you know what I mean. That was like my first taste of like, oh, I can actually like produce resources outside of like having to have a job. Um, so that was an interesting journey for sure. And then we went into like promotional advertising and marketing before there was all of that happening on the internet. We were like door to door and getting to know people that way and just kind of selling face to face like gift cards. And it was very when you look back on the journey, like very powerful to be able to understand my ability to connect with people, understand my ability to um like persuade, you know, from a space of there is benefit here. This is like win-win situation, and really connect with someone authentically with what they desire, and having them trust me that I could support them with what they were looking for. So it's like just that over and over and over again for every day for such a long period of time when you're doing like door to door or direct, like just approaching people in a mall and having them purchase something from you. It's like such a powerful way to harness that ability to connect with people on an authentic level. Um, so there was that, and then I went into hospitality to travel and sort of expand my horizons that way. So I was meant to actually go on cruise ships. I was in Vancouver. Didn't get the job to do the cruise ships. I took a hospitality course and then ended up getting accepted for a job in Lake Louise, Alberta. So I went from Vancouver to Lake Louise, Alberta, and just kind of sunk into a groove there of snowboarding and hiking and just enjoying nature. But it became, yeah, for anyone watching, or if you understand the movie the Truman Show,
Yeah.
that's what it became. It was like the same life over and over and over again. And like kudos to people that can like stay in small towns and just like I'm good. But it was like the same thing, same cycles that were just kind of happening over and over again. And that's when the big awakening happened for me. Ended up moving back home to Ontario. And then that's when my whole life just kind of crumbled. I'm like, I'm 30. I've got no money still. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know what's next. It was just this like crumbling of like, and death of like my avatar, like snowboarder, everything's cool. And just really realized like I'm depressed. I'm directionless. I'm not fulfilled. I was in a relationship at the time. I'm like, I'm not happy in this relationship. It's actually not going where I'd like it to go. It's like I'm not ready to white picket fence and live in a rural small town and hang out with people that I hung out with in high school. I was like, there's more to my expansion here. And it took like a full crumbling of like who I thought I was. And obviously there's cycles of this, and as you can see in the pattern of my story. So, and it's funny because it's just, I'm just connecting the dots, like they're 2 decades apart. Exactly. Because I got back, yeah, it was 2010, Halloween of 2010, arrived back at my parents' house. I'm back living with my mom. I'm 30. And it was like depression, anxiety, just all of it, panic attacks, I just like lost. And then that's what really took me to call in people that were spiritually in tune to like personal development, and like, no, it's like you could actually create the life that you want to. And that's when mentors started to show up for me in my life. And instead they were first business mentors and like personal development mentors that I was working with, and just really fell in love with that journey of like, oh, I'm a malleable piece of like spiritual being that I can choose whatever I want in this life, and learning mindset practices and manifestation and just everything that holistic journey of like the mind, body, soul awakening, and then really dove into the spiritual path with that as well too. So it was like another decade of like practicing different avatars and different businesses for myself. So I was in a fitness company and health company, and was a certified personal trainer. Then I was built a team of personal trainers inside of my own business and was teaching them sales and marketing and how to run their own businesses. So just really breeding leaders and breeding other business owners. And that's what I started to fall in love with. It's like, oh, teach a man to fish. not and that whole philosophy really landed. It's like, okay, this is what really lights me up. If I can like pay it forward, because that's what happened with me. I was seen as much bigger than I was in my dark night of the soul, and my in that 30th year, and people lifted me out and picked me up and trusted me and believed in me to get me to where I wanted to go. So that's why I really latched on that into the fitness world and was able to do that, and then switch from that into finance. I'm like, okay, I want to up level myself in the financial game, and started learning it for myself. And inside of learning it for myself, I'm like, oh, I see a business here. A lot of my clients are all business owners. I can support them with these tools and vehicles. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sell the fitness thing and build up this network of high net worth individuals and build these relationships, and whatever opportunities come through that will come through that. So I was like building that up, building it out, and then it became all this like super masculine, like business, building up tiers and scaling and all of these like things. I'm like, okay, great. Started getting into that. I'm like, this doesn't excite me. It's not like lighting me up. So that's when the reinvention started to come in. I enjoy playing the game of expansion, but I'm not like, I like to feel my way through things. It's like I'm a visionary, emotion, feel things, cast the vision. Let's move, let's gather in a group and a team and like move things forward. I'm not the organizational, calculated person. And I was in the financial thing, and I was just like, it's just like I'm done with it. And just switch gears. I'm like, okay, there's like something here that's telling me to just reset and actually look at what tools and skills and lessons that I really want to start passing on. Because inside of all that businesses, there's a lot of business coaching and communications coaching, and obviously the physical side of things, and spiritual coaching and spiritual development. I've just like stacked all of these tools and modalities up that I was able to support people with during that journey. And then that's when I really got the call of like, okay, there's something here that's inauthentic. It's like you're not actually expressing yourself at the fullest. So that's when that 40th year, another reset and reinvention and death of an avatar, and into the avatar that I operate inside of today, that I'm very blessed and grateful that is my authentic self, that I get to now expand through authenticity and inspiration, like true inspiration of, okay, like what and how can I expand my level of contribution to not only men, but any human being that is called to come into my space. So that's where we are today.
I love it. There's so many things that work was coming in, and I love that you were saying that you also like to feel your way through things. And I think that there is on this journey of like, from my perspective of helping people understand like what the masculine and the feminine energies are and so forth, and expanding their awareness from a very basic understanding. Some of the things that's talked about is how often we are just in the mind, and part of this journey is coming into the heart. And when you were saying like to feel this, and you talked about what lights me up, and basically talking about the passion, to me that was just signs of your journey of like basically coming into your heart and doing what resonates with you at your soul level, not just that that exterior level. So is there anything that comes to the forefront in that topic of the journey of going from the mind to the heart, that you would if someone was coming to you about that, and they were very steeped in the mind, what advice would you say?
Yeah, not so much advice, it would be experiencing it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a big somatic person. So let's actually get into the somatics of the whole experience of that. So I'm a breathwork practitioner and in somatic work as well too. So just really actually sitting and slowing down and experiencing that. Like what does it feel like to shut down the mind, like shut down the computer, reboot the computer, put it offline for a second and come into our bodies, use our felt sense and trust that we can actually feel into our emotional bodies and guide people through that. It's like it's not a you can talk theory all you want, but it's like, hey, just shut up your mind and tune into your heart. Okay. What does that mean? How does that look? I say like it's actually going through that whole process and guidance and patience and then holding space for that to really be truly felt and taken on as a practice. I feel where it's like, okay, let's try it out, because it's like it's so funny to watch that or witness that, especially in a
Yeah.
group of men, and especially online, right? So it's like, okay, it's like gauging and holding that space and just like constantly checking in, like where you at, checking in on the thoughts, like understanding, yeah, the computer is going to want to keep kicking back in, so it constantly acknowledging that,
Mhm.
because it's like we've been through the process, so it's like consistently acknowledging, yeah, like your mind's going to want to wander, there's going to be thoughts that are coming, that's okay, it's supposed to do that, like that's what it's programmed to do, but just override it and that's not judge it, just keep coming back in and hand on a heart or hand on a part in the body, like feel your body, feel your heart, like shut down the mind. It's like actually creating that separation, almost that
Mm.
distinction of the like the ego, the fixing, the fear, the operating apparatus that's trying to protect us inside of the ego. It's going
Mhm.
to keep going, and that's its job. Great, like thanks for keeping me alive
Yeah.
and keeping me safe, but overriding that and coming into our heart. And what do I truly want? It's like thanking the mind and the ego and all of these things for protecting us and wanting to protect us, and also acknowledging when it can take the shift off. Like,
Mm.
okay, it's time to have a seat over there and just let me tune into my heart and my soul and my authenticity and allow that to come through, which is again that feminine masculine balance of like surrender and trust and come into our bodies, and then choose a masculine output that you can consult with the ego, like what's coming up there, what do you think about it, you aren't running the show, it's like I'll hire you as a consultant. Feel free to give your feedback on this, but I know what's in here and what I truly desire, and yeah, it's open to taking constructive feedback, but not allowing
Mm.
the mind to really control things. If the mind controls things, then it's a bit of it's a rough ride.
Mm. I think that's like the perfect way of how you would approach someone who is in their mind and how you would help have them experience in the heart. And I really love that you approach, the dissolve, the letting go of the control of the ego from a very um, neutral transmutational standpoint. It's like there's not a bit of warring frequency in your explanation. And in my personal um, felt sense on this is that yes, there's a lot of talk about the death of the ego, and I can understand that perspective, but there's a lot of frequencies of like you need to get rid of your ego. It's bad for you. It's detrimental to you. But as you shared, it's like you can really take a look at the beauty and the growth that's come from that, and honor for the role it's played, and just ask it to step aside because the core essence is now in the driver's seat, and it's almost like it's like you're allowing the ego to be lovingly integrated into you of like thank you for so much for what you've done, and now
Mhm.
now we're moving to the next part of the journey. And so yeah, I you touched on so many things that was so beautifully shared. um and we're speaking a lot about divine masculine and divine feminine, or masculine and feminine energies. What would you say to someone who's freshly woken up and is like, what are they talking about, masculine and feminine? Is this the physical, or so what
Mm.
would you share to that?
Yeah, just really coming back to our if we look at this outward inward energy, right, it's just
Yeah.
energy perspective. It's not sexuality or anything at all. It's like the feminine, but there's signs, right? Like obviously the
Mhm.
feminine, if you look at the feminine with a human, and the sexuality of a feminine being is receiving, it's surrendering, it's the receiver of the energy. The
Mhm.
masculine is the giver. It's like the producer, the outward energy. Even like if you go into the sexual side of it, it's like penis, ejaculation, outward,
Mhm.
surrender, inward, feminine. If you take all of that out, it's like the energy of it that we actually have in both of us. Like people who identify as a woman have masculine and feminine energy. People who identify as a man have masculine and feminine energy. People who don't identify as anything have masculine and feminine energy. It's like it's a human uh, gift that we all have. It's really harnessing and bringing the awareness to both sides of it, and having compassion for both sides of that. And it's utilizing it as tools. I feel it's like, okay, what's the what's the way of being that I get to show up here in this moment, first for myself and first for anybody that I'm relating with? What's going to be the most effective energy inside of these interactions, or in this moment, or in this season, that's going to be um, supportive for myself and for the beings around me right now? If we're just always in this masculine energy, it can be exhausting for ourselves and for people around us. If we're just constantly just not aware and just constantly moving and projecting things forward, it's going to be difficult to like relate with others. It's going to be difficult to connect and really truly authentically connect, because we're all constantly in this production, outward consumption mode. And if we're always in our feminine of just kind of laid back and surrendering and just allowing the world to have its way with us, then we're probably going to be unfulfilled there too, because now we're being stepped over or manipulated or taken for a ride. We're basically living other people's requests in life
Mhm.
based on what they want for us. That's like finding this like balance of like, where am I going to use my masculine and set a standard, set a boundary? Where am I going to use my feminine to like draw in and connect and hold space and open my heart? And it's like this like dance of like what energies are best utilized in the moment. And if we can be aware that yes, both of them are healthy, and if we can find a healthy balance of that, then yeah, the human experience is going to be a lot more rich and deep and fulfilling.
Yeah, I love that. I think balance is key for everything, not just, I mean, I guess if you get to the root of everything, everything is energy. But since we're talking about the masculine and the feminine energies, it's like, yeah, balance is so key to harmony, to synchronicity, to flow, to all of it. And it's what's you kind of touched on this before on the journey of waking up. It's like um, everyone's path is unique, and it's like as we are balancing and we're learning to trust and to surrender, um yeah, not getting caught up and comparing where another person is at, or how their journey looked, and like how quickly that they are perceived to have worked through something when it's taken you for so long. I think that um you know talking about that feminine energy is just really self-love is such a huge part of the journey. I mean, there's so many things that are
Mm.
huge parts of the journey, but as we know, it starts with self-love, and that's what the whole inner work is all about. And then when you're in a place to be that holding space for others to do the
Mm.
same, like I love that you said that you really resonated with the concept of teach a man to fish rather than continuing to sell and fish. I
Mm.
100% completely agree. And when I look at I'm like diverging a little bit, but it's just being of service to others is such a beautiful topic to my heart. And um, when you do get aligned and you do have that um, everything's balanced, and you have that inner guidance, and you know what you're wanting, what your service is going to look like. At least that's how I choose to describe whatever you're doing. yeah, there's just such a sense of fulfillment that when you compare like the sleep state, if you will, or the avatar
Mm,
that's deeply steeped in the ego, it's like, wow, I mean, I honor that experience, but I'm so grateful for this newfound perspective on reality
mhm,
and life and how it trickles to everything about it.
mm. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's in my gratitude practice every morning is awareness. I'm so
Mm,
grateful for awareness, my awareness and journey to even understand and have these perspective and frameworks, you know, like these conscious frameworks of choosing to be in these different energies or avatars or archetypes or whatever it is, because it's such a it gives that awareness to be able to play with different energies and show up in different ways. And from a conscious perspective, it's like almost like chess pieces, you know. It's like, okay, what piece is going to be effective right now? Do I need to go into an inner creative, feminine, inner knowing like state of just like being? And it's like this is like every moment of every day we can choose that, right? It's like, okay, what is my body calling for right now? Nurturing inner feminine, or is it time to go get shit done and activate a warrior and masculine and go cause a result because I'm inspired and want to go do that, you know? It's like but it really comes down to choice. If we're aware that we can play these different energies and different avatars and different archetypes, then we get to choose.
mm,
Just like we get to choose, am I in fear or shame or ego, or do I want to choose inspiration and love and creation? It's like we're choosing constantly all day long. So it's like, which path are you choosing? It's like if you're
mm,
suffering and struggling, you're likely over here choosing shame and
mhm,
choosing the things that aren't serving you. So it's like obviously being aware, like, well, why am I choosing that? What's the
mm,
self-sabotage or what's the self-love piece that has me choose this versus my freedom and my full authenticity, my full power here? And that's where we get to be on that path of awareness and like, okay, interesting. Why is the ego running the show? You know, it's like, okay, if he's having too many shifts, you know, it's like time for him to take a break. And yeah, it often comes down to that like inner child work and self-love and really going back into our past and dissecting like where did these patterns come from? Why do I default to choose suffering, ego, fear automatically? Not
mm,
good enough, not being enough, not whatever it is. Because as soon as we are aware of that, then we can choose differently.
mhm.
Awareness isn't there, then we see it all around us, right? It's auto choose is over there, which leads to distraction and vices and consumption and all of the things that get us into states of not being fulfilled, which perpetuates more shame and more self-judgment and more of the things that aren't going to support us in moving forward powerfully. So
That's, you keep touching on these golden nuggets. I mean, it doesn't surprise me because of where you're at in your journey, but it's like, wow, awareness is so huge for me. And I've actually seen that, as we know, awareness is the first step, and then now it's time to take conscious action. And I would say, I heard us saying like awareness is only as profound as the action you're going to take afterwards. Because if you have the awareness and you're not going to do anything different and
mm,
you're doing the same stuff, it's like, well, it's kind of, I mean, it's great that you have the awareness, but you're not going anywhere. So it's time to, and once again, it comes back to that feminine and masculine energy right there. It's like,
mm,
so in that, there was an interesting question that was posed to me, and I would be curious if how you would answer it. What to you is the difference between awareness and perspective?
mm, question.
Yeah,
Is there a difference?
yeah. Well, that's what I
uh,
well. It was
uh,
quite interesting answering this.
yeah, first I want to go to like, I don't know. I think we're choosing both still. I'm like, does one have choice and one doesn't have
Yeah,
choice? One's an observation versus
yeah.
a chosen state of awareness.
Hmm.
I guess I would collapse those. Like I don't see any separation in that. So it's almost choice, right? I'm
Mhm.
choosing my perspective, or that maybe they're both not chosen, right? No,
Mm.
I'd say perspective can be unconscious
Okay.
because people can bring a perspective of the world without awareness to even why they have that perspective. So I think
Mm.
awareness for me, what's coming through is like awareness is that conscious choice of like, I am now
Mm.
aware of the why I'm choosing this perspective. That's just me. I'm not sure if, yeah, it's just like that. That's how I kind of see it. It's like the perspective is like the sunglasses, you know? It's like,
Mm.
okay, I'm wearing these like sunglasses. It's like it's like if I have a blue set of sunglasses on
Mm.
and I see everything blue, my perspective is blue.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just all I see. But if someone's like, no, that flower is pink, that rose that I see outside, it's like, no, it's blue. It's like my perspective is constantly going to be blue if I have the blue perspective lens on versus the awareness of like, oh, I'm wearing blue glasses. I could lift these up and now my awareness is that that rose is pink.
Okay.
It's like the unconscious perspective could be the blue lenses, you know? It's like I don't have choice in my life. I don't, whatever stories that we might have, like
Mm.
old stories or patterns that we've learned could cause a perspective that may not be our truth. Versus
Mm.
awareness is based on our truth through our experience and our discoveries on our journey. So,
Oh,
so that's what's landing for me. And thanks for
that
asking the question. It's a good one.
that's well, that was well answered, and I love that you threw in the analogy too. Because when it was posed to me, I was like, wow, I have to really feel into that because that's a yeah, I was almost at the same spot as you. Like, are they the same? And I feel like the way you described it, I was like, yep, that's my answer right there. But I just resonate with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So good, man. Yeah. Great
Yeah,
question.
thank you. So you've had your journey of awakening the death of the ego, and now you're in this place. Could you talk a little bit more about the services that you offer or the groups that you hold? And just yeah, feel free to share anything about in that subject.
Sure. And yeah, we've been really like redefining and then boiling down of the message right now. So it's a great question to ask. And it's really kind of coming up in this like shame to freedom is what we've been like meditating on and like really being like, okay, this group that we have, it's like of men, it's like, what's the journey? And the clients that we've worked with and like really asking and connecting and relating with a lot of the men in the community, it's that's the common thread. It's like we're choosing shame often
Mm-hmm.
when we could be choosing freedom, but to choose the freedom and experience the freedom, we had to be aware of the shame and aware that we're constantly choosing shame. It's like I didn't show up as powerfully as I wanted to as a father for my kid. Shame. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
showing up as present as I would like to with my partner. Shame. I haven't produced the income goal that I wanted to produce in my business or at work or got a promotion. Shame. It's like it reactivates these layers and levels of shame that often we learned as little boys. So it's like we get to look at, okay, what has the shame come in first versus the awareness and choosing. Okay, great. Like I'm feeling um smaller than I know I am, and then choosing to see ourselves as our highest self. So it's really like boiled down to all of the programs we do, the retreats that we do, everything that we do is really the awareness of that. Like, are we choosing fear or shame? Or are we choosing love and freedom? And really having that conscious choice. And it takes a journey. So that's
Mm-hmm.
really what we've created. All these experiences that we've created inside of our programs or inside of our communities and just conscious conversations like this, it all
Mm-hmm.
comes down to the awareness of, well, what am I choosing constantly and repetitively? And now it's like, okay, well, how can we break that pattern and create opportunity to experience and an invitation to experience trying on something differently where we get to do the reps and choose freedom, choose seeing ourselves as our highest self, choose our authentic self, our um choose from our bodies and from our hearts versus choosing from mind over here. Ego, protection,
Mm-hmm.
shame, hide, small, all of the things that happen inside of that. So yeah, it's been multiple years before actually doing this full time for 3 years. So we've created a community, as you know, online, and everything lives online. So it's the best place to gather and gather people internationally. So we have a group called Mastering Masculinity on Facebook. So we meet weekly inside of that container as well too, on Wednesday evenings at 6:30 Eastern. Those are our fireside sit downs where we get to dive in and explore, just like this, have an open conversation of, okay, where are we stuck, where are we stopped, like what's coming up, and just be real and authentic and allow all the nuggets that have come up in you and I having a conversation today to happen every single week, and then take new actions. Like, what's the new awareness? What's the new choice? What's the new way of taking on my life that I want to take on, and having that brotherhood and support to be able to do that every week. And then inside of that, in that community, we have programs as well. So we have a program called our Rise to Kingship program. So it's going through and trying on these different avatars and different archetypes. So we actually go through the 4 masculine archetypes. We go through the medicine wheel as well too. So really trying on different energies, so masculine and feminine energies in there. So we take on that through. There's a book called The Way of the Superior Man that the men really take on in that 90 days as well too, and start sharing around purpose and power of purpose and masculine purpose and sexual energies and sexual dynamics and balance. And it's a beautiful journey, man. Like, we go through the lover archetype, really touches on getting into felt sense, getting out of our minds, getting into our body, using our senses. So sensuality, self-love, like where are we not loving ourselves? Where can we honor ourselves at a deep level? Because until we do that, we can't go into the warrior and start creating and going into that masculine energy again, until we understand, well, what's actually going to stop us from creating what we want to create as the warrior. Because we can create whatever we want as the warrior. It's like, okay, I want this type of relationship, I want this type of family, I want this type of income goal, I want to be doing this as a business, I want this in my career, it's like, okay, great. Well, okay, what's actually, well, why don't you have that? Because if here we haven't sat with the lover and actually understood like where that shame and the fear and self-sabotage shows up, until we get clear and aware and bring in the awareness on that, it's going to be very challenging to create powerfully in our full authenticity of what we want to create. So we start there with those two. Start with the lover, go into the warrior. Then we go to the mystic and magician of like, oh, I can alchemize. What's my superpower? Well, how can I start harnessing my superpower and testing it out with the world, and like manifesting and trying it on and alchemizing my energy in my body, and just really testing on creating that magic instead of a superpower. And then from there, we can really step into that kingship and take that higher perspective. Like, well, who's in my kingdom now? Now that I have the awareness that I can harness and operate in these archetypes and have these chess pieces in my life, now I can sit on that throne and understand, okay, when can I play them? Who do I want to play these pieces with? How can I show up powerfully in these archetypes? Who's in my kingdom? What organizations, what people do I stand for? Who am I here to oversee and protect and honor and provide for? And in the most humble sense of my mature masculine, where can I lead? Where can I step into my leadership fully and honor my commitments as a king, and be a humble servant and humble contributor to first myself, then my family, then my community, and we can expand from there, right? Depending on how big of a game that men want to step into, right? It could be at the level of the world at some point, but until we do it at the level of self, it's going to be we can't skip level of self. How can I be in full integrity and full awareness of who I am, and trust myself, and have it like full personal integrity of showing up for myself? How am I possibly going to do that for a family or a group of friends or a business or a community or an organization? It's a step-by-step thing. So yeah, we're definitely a stand for that journey. And then from there, it's like, yeah, we dive into people's businesses and a program we call Business Alchemy, if that calls in, if that's their path and their journey. So we're always open to like jumping in with men who are in service and wanting to expand their vision and their passion into the world. And we've done it, so we can carry men on that path as well too, because that's a bit of a dance as well too with the ego. Like we even
Mhm.
shared at the start of the thing, the trusting self, imposter, authentic self. It's like, oh shit, I gotta like expose my authentic self. So it takes a bit of like, hey, let's create a tribe and actually go through that journey together and hold each other up and hold each other to the fire a little bit, and keep that accountability in there to do the reps to come through the other side of like having that belief and that knowing that we can be our authentic selves and serve the world in that way.
Mm.
Yeah, man.
Wow. I just gotta say, what a beautiful thing you guys have. I think you guys are doing such a good job at bridging that for those who are not waking up, or maybe even for those who are awaking, have been awakened, to what you guys are doing is truly, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful that you guys are doing your thing, and it's so needed. And I'm actually looking forward to participating um, with you guys in some of these things. And so if someone was interested in working with you guys, is the Facebook group the best way to get a hold of you guys, or what's the best way?
Yeah, I could definitely do that, but I would say DM on, so Facebook, what's my Facebook? So it's my name at David Pinio.
Mhm.
And then Instagram is I am David Pinio. Expansive Warriors in there as well, but Expansive Warriors with an X. So XPANSIVE Warrior.
Mhm.
So those are the three ways. But I'm always, yeah, like DM, reach out. Let's have a human to human conversation. It's always easy to join a group and say we're in a group, but there's no actual human connection there. So I always invite that. Like, yeah, direct message me, or if they want to get a hold of me through you, and let's have a conversation and a heart to heart. Like that's where I like to start things off. And I know obviously we're here doing that now, so I know you stand for that as well too. But yeah, if that Mastering Masculinity is the name of the Facebook group too. But so if they find it and want to join there, we're gonna open the invitation to have a conversation anyway. So any man that comes into that community, we invite them to share a little bit from their heart to come into the community, and then we open an invitation to have a conversation as well too. So that way we can really connect with everybody coming in. So those would be the best ways for sure.
Oh man, I love it. It's like you're hitting on all these like beautiful words. Like a little while back when you were sharing in the group, it's like I'm not sure if you used the word vulnerably, but either way, I just like, for sure, that's one beautiful key and on my journey. And transparently, it's like,
Mm.
get transparent, let's get vulnerable, let's get yeah, those are some very alchemizing, profound brews, if you will, to throw in the mix of helping one navigate their journey to being more in alignment with their core essence.
Yeah,
um yeah.
yeah, yeah. And that's definitely what we stand for in those spaces, and creating those spaces as as safe as possible for men to be able to come in and just be real, just come as you are. We've all been on our own journeys and through the shit. There's like literally doing this for the amount of years we've been doing it. There's nothing new, you know. It's like that's my invitation to any of the men watching this. It's like it's someone's going through what you're going through, or a version of it. So it's like you're not alone, and we want to create spaces where we can just put everything on the table and support one another to move through it, whatever's there. We don't have to suffer in silence, they say. You know, it's like we can
Mm.
we can come together and just throw our burdens on the table and carry them together, or release them together. You know, it doesn't have to be a lone journey. The death of the lone wolf is the intention of the community.
uh
We've been doing it long enough and conditioned to do it long enough. You know, let's just get real, and yeah, throw everything in the fire. You know, sit around that virtual fire and just put it all out there.
hmm
It's how we used to do it, man. So now it's
hmm
like getting out of this giant, massive collective and into these small communities and tribes where we can just be real and just, yeah, share whatever's there around a virtual fire or a real fire, hopefully, with a lot of the guys. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
It's that in-person connection. I mean, it's so potent. So yeah.
Yeah, that's how we started with retreats. So yeah, definitely stay tuned for 2023 and 2024 retreats coming back in. It kind of got kiboshed at the for a couple of years
Hmm.
there, but
Hmm.
we're definitely down to jump back in. So yeah, any men who are open for those in-person experiences, yeah, definitely reach out and we'll start to gather some tribe and get those going as well, whether in Costa Rica or Canada or wherever we're called.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
man.
love it. I love it. David, I'm so grateful for our co-creation and our connection. And like I said before, I'm looking forward to the furthering of this beautiful connection. And I just got to say, from the bottom of my heart, much love to you, and thank you so much for this beautiful conversation.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for creating the space and setting the intention.
Hmm.
Beautiful things happen when we set intention to create spaces like this. So I honor you and acknowledge you for committing to that, and just keeping that momentum going inside of your intention. So yeah,
Thank
look
you.
forward to continuing.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
man.